Welcome to 18th Century Cooking. I'm your host, John Townsend, and today we have special guest in the kitchen, Michael Dragoo. We will be cooking steaks fried
with an oyster sauce.
Thanks for joining us today as we savor the flavors and the aromas of the 18th century. So, Michael, you brought us this very, very interesting recipe.
Yeah.
This one's from...
It's Elizabeth Cleland, 1755. The book is one that you offer. It's a new and easy method of cookery.
Right. So, an interesting cookbook. It's kind of got a little bit of a Scottish background to it.
It does. French and Indian War,
Yeah.
based out of England.
Yeah. So this steaks fried, we don't normally it's a little strange.
No, and without reading the whole thing through, it says I'm going to take the flat. I'm going to cut them flat with my chopping knife. We don't find cuts of meat generally like you'd find in a big box store these days.
Right. And it's like today we would fry these up.
Yep.
These might be a little bit more expensive in the time period. She calls for a tender cut,
Right.
so not something hard.
Right.
And I guess that's typical. We might get that at any steak restaurant when we go. But this oyster sauce,
it's not just the fact of using the oysters, but it's what else we've added to this sauce that makes it so unusual. And when you're done with it, it's pretty tasty.
You think so? I haven't tried it yet.
I can't lie in front of the camera. No, I don't think so. But.
No, it's going to be great. I'm sure it is. So read us a recipe.
Sure. Cut your steaks off any tender part of the beef. Flat them with your chopping knife and put them on a hot brander on a clear, quick fire. On a quick fire is about 350, 400 degrees. Turning them often that the gravy does not run out. Have your sauce ready. Make it thus. Scald your oysters and wash them clean in their own liquor. Then strain the liquor into a saucepan. Put to it a piece of butter worked in flour, 2 or 3 shallots, pounded pepper, cloves, and nutmeg. Salt it to your taste and put to it a glass of white wine and the rind and juice of a lemon. So pour it on your ashet of steaks boiling hot. Garnish them with pickles. So there's lots of things we can address here. What some of these phrases mean and all, but...
Yeah, and then there's the question also of which one we're going to cook up first.
Right.
Because, of course, we don't want our steaks getting cold. So we'll probably work on this sauce, right?
Yeah, I think so, yes.
Okay, so how are we going to get started on this sauce?
Well, the first step is to heat up a pan, and we've done that, and we're going to introduce some flour and some butter together.
Okay, so normally you would do this over a stovetop with a little pan, but this one's so thick and heavy that it will hold the heat.
Right,
so we can basically cook with it. We've got a ball of butter.
And in all of these recipes, they are asking us, it might be the size of a walnut, they'll give us a size sometimes, but you're just pushing as much flour into the butter as you can. That's acting as a roux. Today we'd use equal parts of butter and flour to make our roux, and this is how they did it. And frequently it's not the first step. In this recipe it is.
That one
so
goes
that's
in.
melting. We're going to add some shallots. Once again, this is reduced down. Next step is to introduce the oyster's liquor. We've filtered it through a piece of linen. We're just going to put that in right now. That's the base of our sauce. That's good right there.
Yeah, I don't think I would make an oyster sauce with its juice and everything.
No, I
for a
sure
steak
wouldn't
today.
either. But I'll tell you, when it's done, it tastes differently.
Okay, good. So I've got spices here. What else goes in this?
Oh, don't put them all in, just a finger of each.
Okay.
In this case, we're going to add some salt.
So a little bit of salt.
Some coarse pepper.
Coarse pepper.
And if you would take the honors. We've got some cloves right here. I'll do that. Right here.
We got nutmeg. So nutmeg has to go in.
Nutmeg. Yeah, your handlers told me that I can't bring recipes unless they have nutmeg in them.
That's right.
You are the
Only nutmeg.
necromancer of nutmeg. That's
There
right.
we go.
And that's it. And we're gonna put some lemon in. If you squeeze a lemon, I'll get a little of the peel, the rind in. There we go.
So this sauce, as it is, has this wonderful, complex smell. I'll bet it's going to taste very, very wonderful and interesting. What's next with this?
We're just going to get it back on the fire and let it simmer for a little bit.
Right.
Just to kind of reduce down a bit.
So we're going to steam these oysters, right?
She says scald your oysters,
Right.
and I interpret that as steaming.
Yeah, obviously we don't want to, but they don't get cooked a lot. That's what she means by the scalding. It's almost like blanching them.
I
But
think,
we're going to
yes.
steam them, which is great. Our steaming setup is, we got a pot here with just a little bit of water in it.
Yeah, I don't have a steamer from the time periods, but I do have this
You
little
got a
guy.
colander,
so
yeah.
we're going to put the oysters in this, and we're going to put a lid on it and put it over the fire.
So we're flipping these over faster than I would do in a standard, cooking a steak today.
Right, she's trying to sear them. In this time period, they seem to always be piercing the meat, the flesh of the meat, and collecting the drippings. They call it the gravy. The gravy in this time period is the juices, the blood from the animal.
This recipe specifically says keep that gravy
Right.
in. So keep turning them over.
Keep turning them over.
Don't let them drip.
Try to sear them, yes. And here we are.
So here's our finished dish. It looks interesting. We got this nice pickle garnish.
Right.
She says to garnish with pickle. I'm not sure if she really means pickles like this or a pickle kind of relish, but that's okay. And we got some wonderful smells and flavors. Boy,
Yep.
that sauce smelled good. Question is does it add a lot to the flavor?
We will report back momentarily.
So let's try this out. We got a nice medium
very good.
rare.
I'll give it a fair shot here.
Yeah.
Here we go. Once again, unexpected. I don't normally eat oysters, and it's interesting.
It's actually, at least as it was made here, it's a very mild sauce.
It is. It's not overwhelming.
It's not overwhelming. If I was going to redo it, I might push the salt and pepper a little bit more. I'm not even getting the nutmeg in there, so I'll toss some more in there.
She doesn't mention seasoning the meat at all, and so we didn't.
Right.
We're taking the recipe literally. Sometimes
Right.
it's left to interpretation.
Right.
And, they might have, so.
Even whether the oysters come back in, you don't actually see that in the recipe.
She says to steam the oysters. I think it's assumed you put them back in the sauce, and which we did.
Right.
But why would you steam the oyster and not? So I know we're not collecting the drippings from it.
Right,
So.
exactly. So,
Yeah.
but, going back on there, we could add that in here.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's a great little sauce. Of course, today, we would just say, hey, that steak is so good, why would we want to ruin it with any sauce at all, right? I think she wanted to, perk these up a little bit, make it just a little bit fancier by having these things on it. When today, boy, we would just eat this steak and enjoy it.
Yeah. I would encourage you to try it. It's different. It's completely different than what you're used to.
So a wonderful kind of comparison today's steakhouse food versus what's happening 250 years ago. Perfect example of that. Great recipe. Thanks to you so much, Michael, for bringing this along.
Thank you for having me.
And if you're interested in another episode where Michael brings something interesting, well, there's that mushrooms and cream, right?
Mushrooms and cream.
Mushrooms and cream. Check out this video.